Good evening, North Dakotans and Americans worldwide, and welcome to Here's the Deal. I'm your host, Shilo, and conspicuous by his absence, Mr. Marvin Lepp is off tonight. But man, do I got a treat for you. The guy who coined that phrase that I just used is live with us. He's going to co-host with us tonight, Mr. Jason Heitkamp. How are you, bud?
I'm good. I thought you were reading my cue cards there for a minute.
I need to start doing something. I was practicing one time, and I think it was Tuesday or Friday show. I mean, man, I was practicing on the way home from work, and practicing with my voice and different things, and man, I got to do the intro, and I just totally screwed it up. I started to laugh, and Marvin was laughing. I'm like, that just goes to show I can't even practice trying to do the intro on my own.
Yeah. If it's not natural, it's not going to flow.
That's right. That's right. So, well, we have quite the busy day. Obviously, the first day of the Republican convention started today out there in Fargo, and we're going to talk a little bit about that after our guest tonight. So,
Absolutely.
why don't you guys just get ready for that? We'll have our final thoughts on the convention here. And right now, though, I want to introduce someone, Miss Whitney Irmen, and she recently did a um, fundraiser called Funds for Fuel. And the reason why I wanted to have her on was I just thought, we just got done talking, Jason. Um, with all the grimness in the world going on right now, and sometimes it just doesn't feel like there's much hope. Here's a young person here in the community of Bismarck. Down there is where she lives, in Bismarck, and she's trying to make the change, be the change that we want to see. And I'm very happy to have her on this evening. So with that, I'm going to bring Whitney on. How's it going, Whitney?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm really glad to have you. Thank you for taking the time and being with us this evening. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic and glad to be here.
You're doing fantastic. Well, we were just talking before the show. I know you have 2 kids, and so that's always fun, right?
Yep, keeps me busy.
So, with that being said, Whitney, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about your background and Funds for Fuel and how that got started and why you decided to do it, and we'll just go from there.
Okay, so I can start a little bit by talking about my background. I have been a practicing social worker since 2019. I have
Mm-hmm.
my bachelor's degree from Minot State, and I have been a program coordinator for adults and children with disabilities, a child welfare worker, and most recently an advocate. So in Bismarck, I work with individuals who are affected by violence, whether that be intimate partner, family, or domestic violence and sexual assault. So that's kind of where I've been over the years. And as of last May, I also got into the graduate program at University of North Dakota. So I am almost done with the academic portion of my Master of Social Work degree. And part of the curriculum is the advanced generous practice with community. And a cornerstone of what we learn in that class is the difficulties and triumphs of community organizing. So we were tasked with identifying a need in the community and coming up with a solution. And I pretty quickly settled on Funds for Fuel because I work a lot with people that are underprivileged, poor, homeless, those types of things. And as inflation worsens, we see the needs skyrocket. And there's not really a way to meet those needs. So the little gas cards seem to be the perfect solution. Ultimately, I was able to purchase 35 $20 gas cards from Exxon here in town and disperse them to transitional housing and rapid rehousing clients through the AARC.
Wow, that's awesome. So you said you got 35 $20 cards, so that's about $700. My math is right.
That's correct.
Where did you go to get the donations?
So that was a fun part. There are a lot of different needs in the community, and there are a lot of different programs,
Mm-hmm.
initiatives, and it's really hard to pound the concrete with your feet and just try to gather the support. So I did create a GoFundMe, and where I saw the most success is people I know and people in my family. So I
Mm-hmm.
those funds because of those shares and people just kind of donating out of the goodness of their heart. So I was very fortunate there.
That's awesome. So now I know you're talking a little bit about the program that you were um, involved in with your schooling. What else was a determining factor in you doing this?
So there is kind of a whole implication with selecting participants of something like
Mm-hmm.
it kind of mirrors the way nonprofits work in terms of gathering funds. And there really is no good way to determine who gets these types of things without making pretty bold assumptions about people.
Mm-hmm.
Show up to the church banquet and say, here, like you need a gas card, but we can probably agree that that's not overly appropriate. So
Right.
I did end up selecting the rapid rehousing and transitional housing programs just because those housing coordinators have that existing relationship with their clients and they can kind of vouch for their needs like, yes, this would help. Yes, this will get them to work on Monday. This will get their
Mhm.
kids to school on Tuesday. And then that relationship is there just so you're not being presumptive and assuming someone needs something. So it was in good
Gotcha.
faith I could give these cards to those programs.
Gotcha.
If I can just say something, I just want to commend you for what you're doing. I know in the last legislative session, my daughter was involved, and they had a big bill about getting tax-free diapers for families. And I thought the strange part about it was they'd already passed a adult tax-free diaper bill back in 2019, and they hadn't done it for families. And so, but with what you're talking about, it can be for all ages. And I said
Mhm.
that's really special because you know the price of gas affects everybody, whether you're old, retired, or young and need to get to work. So I said it's a great idea.
I agree.
So let's talk a little bit about your professional history because you are a social worker by trade,
Mhm.
and I know you said you at the adult abused resource center right now, but you didn't start there, did you?
I didn't.
You want to take us a little bit through your history on kind of what you've seen in your community down there in Bismarck and why you decided to get involved, why not only that, but like why you decided to go into social work and all that. I think.
That is a very interesting question because, of course, someone in a role like I'm in, my fellow social workers out there can attest to the fact that we aren't making the millions by any means.
Mm-hmm.
We are generally funded by public dollars, which I'm sure you both can appreciate that those are not necessarily easy to come by. So we're limited on resources and we have to find our why. And
Mm-hmm.
that why will keep you hanging in after all of the hard days, all of the thankless days. So my why, I think I was 19 when I started college. I got my associate's degree down here in Bismarck at BSC.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very quickly drawn to psychology. And that's kind of where I started getting those general credits. And I think it was because I wanted to understand myself and everyone else. So getting my associates and then eventually bachelor's, what they define social work as is sociology and psychology, those theories put into practice. So I take those things and I apply them to real people and try to problem solve every day. Um, so that's kind of the condensed version of the why, because sometimes me and others who do the same work as I do feel a little crazy. Why am I doing this? But
Mm-hmm.
going back to that why and wanting to understand ourselves and maybe help ourselves through helping others sometimes plays into it too. So I, prior to being an advocate for AARC here in Bismarck, I'm actually the criminal justice liaison advocate for Mandan Police Department. So I work with the police
Hey,
officer.
Whitney,
What's
before you go on, I'm sorry, I don't mean to um cut you off, but can you tell us what AARC is?
Yeah, Abuse Adult Resource Center.
Okay. Okay, sorry.
No, you are good. That was good.
Okay.
So I partner with the Mandan Police Department and a specialized detective over there.
Mm-hmm.
I can do outreach to victims of violence in Mandan. So I get all the police reports and determine lethality and then do outreach. Prior to my work now, I'm coming up on a year with AARC. I was in child welfare where I worked some CPS and foster care as well. And prior to that, I was in the disability field and I wrote the plans as well as working directly with the individuals to help them set goals and accomplish them. So that's where I've come from.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, with all that being said, I'm curious, what is what's your how do I say this without sounding dumb, but what's the best part of the job you like that you're doing? Like what makes you want to get up in the morning and do this? Because obviously it can be, I imagine, taxing, because I
Yeah.
know what safety is sometimes for me.
Hmm.
And I mean, there's times where it's really good and everybody's, we're doing good, and then there's a week where it just all hell breaks loose. So
Yeah.
what makes you get up and tick and want to do this every day?
So that's going to be the little successes. And if I can confidently say I've saved a life, um, that will happen because so we are given rights under the North Dakota Century Code as a certified advocate to assist victims with their court proceedings,
Mhm.
looking to get a protection order. So if I'm able to meet a victim kind of where they're at emotionally, and a lot of the times they're in crisis and really coming from acute trauma mode, meeting that victim where they're at and assisting them to piece together their affidavit in the way that
Mhm.
it to be to meet the statute, and then that getting approved by the judge, knowing that it is just a piece of paper, but it holds legal weight. So it bars a few offenders and abusers from being X amount of feet within of the home. So like if a victim wants to stay in their home, they get this, and then the abuser is legally compelled to go away, and then it's an arrestable offense right away if they break it. So in those situations, I can actually tell myself I probably saved a life.
Yep.
So it is little things like those. Or another thing that we do that is huge is we have our safe shelter. So we place individuals and families, most of the time they're families, into our safe shelter, get them out of dangerous situations.
Mhm.
That's another one of those things where I'll work a case and then I can say, yep, we made a difference. Like without us, this would have went worse. And it has huge implications for lives, like every
Mhm.
every life. So that's these little successes amidst some of, there's always failures in any system,
Right.
but the little successes, that's what we all say around the office, is that's what keeps us going.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And financial burdens and financial stress on families, that's the big killer of a lot of families.
Absolutely. Hmm. Um, if you were to Google our statistics statewide, we saw exact number is slipping from me, but a 25% uptick in sexual assaults last year in our area. So if you think about that in terms of people, that's a pretty big deviation from what we were seeing from averages. We served, I think, an extra 200 clients last year in 2023 as compared to 2022, which
Mhm.
might not sound huge, but it goes to lend credence to the fact that as people struggle, as conditions get harder, you have people staying in relationships for the financial stability,
Yeah.
have
Mhm.
people using more substances, you have people that are more stressed, and then seeing additional violence. That is absolutely something that we all believe in.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious too on those. Like, I imagine when we're talking about abusive relationships, I mean, is there statistics on what it is, men versus females, or not, or
If
what do
you
you?
cause it's CAWS, North Dakota is kind of our macro level. So they do the policy, they do the lobbying kind of at the legislative level and all of that. They do all of our statistics. And I believe that they just published a bunch. So if you want to take a peek at that, that would probably give you those numbers. We
Gotcha.
tradition like over the last, I don't know, 40 years, it's like 90% are women that are victims, but there are males. There
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what about with let's say people moving in? I mean, do you think that's some of why the numbers are going up as well? I mean, different cultures and different, you know, however you want to say that, but let's be honest, there's a lot of immigrants and different things moving around as well. Do you
I
guys see much of that, or?
I work with a lot of immigrants. My best friend has become Language Line, the
Yeah.
interpreter service, just because it is the language barrier makes me feel super inadequate.
Mm-hmm.
So I have worked with a lot of different people from other cultures, and there certainly is an uptick of immigration to our area. And a huge thing that people probably don't think about right away until they're faced with such stark differences is how different our culture is compared to other cultures, and what is legal in other countries is not legal here.
Right.
Um, so yes, the short answer is yes, that there are a lot of implications with the growing diversity we have in our state.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's always interesting to me to how the statistics are, especially with people moving in and out, and it doesn't even necessarily need to be immigrants, but let's be honest. I mean, we've had a large number in the last 3-4 years move in, and then you've got the people from out of state coming up here because they need to work up here or whatever the case may be. So, I mean, I live in that country up here in oil country where I'm kind of a rarity because I was born and raised here, right here in North Dakota. And
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to think about that sometimes when, especially over here, maybe not so much over by Jason's much, but over here, it's kind of a rarity when you tell them that you're born and raised here, and they kind of look at you like, "What?"
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm fourth generation living in the house where I live in. But I said that the strangest thing I saw today, and maybe it isn't strange, but I was in Target today, and there was a guy
Mhm.
that came in straight out of the oil fields and even had the alarm on his
Yeah, the
chest.
4 gas monitor.
I don't think you see that very often in Bismarck, do you?
No,
No.
no, no, it's more out here.
I wanted to stop and ask him what the alarm sounded like when it went off, because I remember the first time I ever heard it, it sounded like birds, and I thought, where are the birds at? It's like 40 below, you know. They never told me it was going to sound like a canary in the coal mine, you know.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Sorry, I got off subject there. I just have a question for you. So you accomplished this goal that you had. Are you going to try to double down on it for next year, or are you doing 6-month increments, or what do you think?
So the Funds for Fuel initiative, I actually just presented to my cohort as well as my classmates on Wednesday night.
Hmm.
So it from January 17th to I pulled the funds on March 27th. So that was about 3 months. So that was kind of this stint. And then when I presented it, I did say that it can be replicated by undergraduate or graduate students should anyone want to continue my work. I
Yeah,
think a lot
yeah,
more enjoyable, I guess, maybe partnering with somebody, which I started was like, oh, I'll just do it alone, which means it's a lot harder.
right, right.
Or guiding someone along to replicate it. So I have been talking with a girl about mentoring her She's an undergraduate student, so who knows? Maybe she would give it a try because certainly need.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So, let's talk a little bit about your recipients then. I know you touched on it a little bit prior in the show here, but um, how many you had 35 cards then? So, did you give it to 35 different individuals, or how did you decide who got what?
So I actually made little cards to stick with the gas cards that
Mm-hmm.
have been selected as a recipient. This just is to help ease some of the financial burden. My name is Whitney. If you have questions about this, let your housing coordinator know. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
lifeline in case any of the recipients wanted to talk to me directly. And I put them in envelopes and I split them up and gave one to Summer, who is the transitional housing gal, and one envelope to Alicia, who is the rapid rehousing program coordinator. So it was pretty much split right down the middle.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And then they just chose who got them.
Yes. So their programs are funded through HUD. So those are federal funds, and they're busy, busy ladies. They've got a lot of people on their program trying to stave off the homelessness in our.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
yes,
So my question is then, how many people got back to you then?
I haven't heard anything yet,
Okay.
but some of the clientele are individuals who might take a little while
Yep.
to chew on it, and then sometimes it's like a chance encounter. Oh, you're the one that gave me the gift card, and then I'll talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So,
Thank you.
what's next for Whitney then?
Well, I'm gonna graduate next year with my master's degree, probably continue some form of advocacy, and I have thought about going into diagnosis and clinical work.
Cool.
So yeah, it could be interesting. I really, really like what I do at AARC though, so it is a lot to chew on and think about over the next year.
Mm-hmm.
Grow who I want to be when I grow up. As
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, well, if you need a dummy to work on, I'm sure Angel will donate me if you need a case. So,
Love that. That's a lot to unpack there, Shilo.
shoot, yeah,
Well, when,
no,
when Shilo asked before how he would ask that question without looking foolish, and I'm just paraphrasing the right way, I was going to say you can text it to me and I'll ask it, but so anyway,
I think you got it done.
yeah,
shoot. Well, if you can't make fun of yourself, who can you make fun of, right?
that's the only
That's
person you can make fun of is yourself. That's it.
that's
I
the
always,
way I see it.
I always,
So,
if I don't laugh, I'll cry.
that's
So
right.
I just,
Well,
if I can ask one last question.
sure.
So, when you go to Washington, D.C., there's a lot of homeless and stuff. It's the capital. Is Bismarck, how are they in relation to the other cities in North Dakota? Is there more homeless and stuff here because it's the capital, or I mean, and I'm not trying to relate it to Washington, D.C., but it's just interesting to know.
I actually do have a pretty good answer for that. So I was sent to a conference last summer in Tulsa,
Mhm.
Oklahoma. It was put on by the Office of Criminal Justice. So it's part of the grant work that I do. And I was with my boss down there. And we saw what a city of a million actually kind of looks like. Like, I don't get out of the state very much.
Yep. Yeah.
Are expensive. So I actually there are so many homeless there in a huge city like that that they're crawling in and out of windows as you drive down the street in an Uber. It was profound compared to here.
Right.
South part of the city, we have our United Way shelter and ministry on the margins, which are huge in our community for helping those individuals. But you don't even see close to the magnitude that you'll see in the bigger cities.
Mhm.
We have a lot for people that are unhoused right now, but nothing like that.
Okay.
So, if somebody wants to get involved, I mean, is there a place where people can give donations or anything like that? I mean, not just for your funds for fuel, but if they want to get involved in the adult abuse resource center or any of that, where would they go?
So that we take all sorts of donations. Almost every person that walks in, we will help them with a food box.
Mm-hmm.
For hygiene items, we like to say we don't want anybody walking away with nothing. We have blankets, diapers. We accept all sorts of donations for our shelters because we've got our safety shelter and our
Mm-hmm.
shelter for people kind of moving past the safe shelter. So we take donations of pretty much any kind. And then Seeds of Hope thrift store is actually our thrift store. So
Okay.
those those donations are sold there, and then that goes to fund our program. So any one of those avenues would be fine to take if you wanted to get involved.
Well, I really appreciate your time, and I'm glad that you agreed to come on and talk about this stuff because let's face it, this is it can be a hard subject, especially when you talk about different walks of life and sexual abuse and just abuse in general. It's ob- obviously it's out there, and unfortunately, it's all too common sometimes. And so, but I do appreciate your time. And is there anything that you would like our viewers to know about your program or about you?
Um, Not really. I think that we
Okay.
covered all of it, and I am very grateful for this opportunity. And I hope that you guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your evening.
You too,
But
Whitney.
can
You
I
too.
bring up one more thing?
Of course.
I,
Sure.
I'm talking about the eastern half of North Dakota, but I know that one thing that they do out there, and I don't know if they do it here or not, but they have sock drives out there.
That's wonderful.
And so you wouldn't believe how many people it need socks. And so, I mean, if you're looking for ideas of other people who want to do things, I know like Jay Thomas out in 970, or excuse me, yeah, 970 AM out there, they do a sock drive every year, and it's unbelievable how happy the people are just to get socks.
Mhm. And then
Yeah,
how people just want a way to give back, but they don't know how.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it truly is astounding and heartwarming too.
yeah.
You bet. Well, um, we got your page up on our website, so we'll maybe get a link or something that we can put the abused adult resource center on as well. And if people want to make donations there, we're definitely to help whatever we can with. I I'm a part of a group too out here. It's called Her Inspiration, and it's an adult, or not an adult, it's a pregnancy resource center. But they not only do they deal with um pregnancy and stuff, but we also have um, where men can come in too and get counseled, and it's actually for the whole family. Dr. Nadia Watson and her husband, Dr. Charles, they've been on the show a few times, and actually, I'm going to have them on. I think I'm going to try and get them on this Friday again because we're doing something like what you were talking about. But May is going to be for mothers, and then we're going to have something for fathers in June, and then it's going to be the whole family in July. So we're going to have 3 months of fundraising for Her Inspiration and stuff like that out here in Williston because again, it's something that's um, needed in my opinion. And
Very
that just is another reason, Whitney, why I felt strong on having you here and yeah. So I really appreciate you taking the time out and to come here and talk about this and whatever we can do to help you and your cause down there, we definitely are game. So,
that sounds
but and I just gotta say, I didn't say it at the beginning of the show. I said it last week, but Whitney is my niece, so it's a extra proud moment for me. So I just have to say how proud I am of you and keep it up. And we need more people like you, working to be the change that you want to see in the world, and that's all that matters. We need more young people getting involved like you. So my hat's off to you.
that
Very
means
proud of you.
a lot. Thank you. Well, I will sign off now. You guys have a lot of fun with your politics, okay?
All right, sounds good. Have a
Bye.
good
Very
one.
nice, very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
But that is Whitney Irmen, and she works for the Adult Abused Resource or Abused Adult Resource Center down there in Bismarck. And so, yeah, when I first found out what she was doing, I wasn't paying too much attention. And then it kind of grabbed me one day, and I'm like, you know what? We need to have her on. And so I was glad that she agreed to come on and talk about her deal, because how cool is that? Another young person getting involved and being the change they want to see. So I my hat's off to her. Even if she wasn't my niece, my hat is off to her. So
Well,
anyway,
the young are our future, and if you can get the young people doing things like that, they're going to have a long stretch to help people. And it's you got to get that into their mind that they have. It used to be
oh
years ago.
yeah,
Well, it used to be years ago. The churches would help, everybody would help. I'm very proud of her, and I just met her, so I'm very proud of her.
yeah, it's a pretty cool story. So she's got a bright future in front of her as far as I'm concerned. So with that, Jason, it's time for our final thoughts. Usually, I mean, you know kind of how Marvin and I are. We have thoughts, sometimes good, sometimes not so good. Obviously, it was the first day of the convention down there, and the only real news that I heard is that something held it up down there with the District 37 delegates, and I don't know whatever came of that. I didn't actually hear the final deal, whether they let them stay and vote or not, but I know there was some confusion down there to start the convention off right away. But the other two things that I heard was is that Dr. Steve Nagel won the endorsement for the national committee man over Shane Gettle, and so there is that. And then the big news coming out is Jim Bartlett, who has been on the show with us as well as you, Jason, won the endorsement for DPI, the DPI candidate. So, and I know that kind of affects you because you are also in that race. And I know I'm just going to say it. If Jim wants to be on again, if he wants to co-host a show with me, he's more than welcome to. But uh, I did not ask you to be on the show tonight because we were going to talk about this race, but I do believe that this him winning the nomination is a pretty big deal from Kirsten Baszler. So,
Well,
and it
and I'll tell you what, I think that Steve Nagel winning the endorsement from Shane Gettle is a very big thing. I think you're seeing a lot of things happening. Um,
Mhm.
but I'll tell you what, the party is not over yet for the superintendent of public instruction or for the national committee man, because this is where the dirty laundry patrol comes out and tries to make everybody look bad, and that's what's going to happen.
Yeah,
Um, this is not over for Kirsten Baszler yet, but
I don't believe it is either.
no, but I'm just saying that, the reason that I wasn't out at the convention is because I want to be a nonpartisan person, and I want to serve everybody. And with a nonpartisan position, getting the endorsement of a party, I don't think that that's right. And so, and that's why I didn't go. But that's just me, And I'm not here to say good things or bad things. I just want you to know why I wasn't
Yeah.
there. Um,
Well,
but I said this race is just starting again because she has a big war chest and she
mhm,
has a lot of people that want to see her stay in. And one of them is Doug Burgum. And you know how he gets, he'll spend whatever amount of money it takes.
yep. And I hope that people, take that into account too, as well as I think that all of these races are still
Yep.
through the primary are going to be, it's going to be interesting to see. I think, honestly, I think the way it's going, it's going to be something that we've never seen before in politics, in North Dakota politics. I think it's that I think there's a lot of bad blood between the establishment and grassroots, and I just it's gonna be it's gonna be a dogfight.
Well,
So
and like with District 37, I don't know what was going on there. I was kind of hearing bits and pieces of it, but it sounds
mhm.
like Sandy Sanford was trying to stop them from being able to come in and be a part of it. And I saw the news that said that she lost that bid. So it sounds like they were able to stay and able to vote. I
Yeah,
mean, if I'm wrong, I'll apologize, but that's what I heard.
yeah,
And
I
I
can't comment on it because I don't know enough about it, but I know that it had something to do with how they were elected. But then I seen also that Senator Hoven got on and said something to the fact that if there were people that wanted to come and vote, that they could have because the district they didn't have enough delegates to go. So
Yep,
I don't know whether it's here nor there. I mean, I can see his point, but also you still got to do it the right way, correct?
absolutely. At least
Whether
they
they're
didn't have any buses coming and things
yeah,
like that. I think some of the news that isn't being talked about, today. Of course, I listen to the Democrat Joel Heitkamp in the morning, so other people
mhm,
don't have to. Uh, but this Christina, oh, I can't think of her last name now. Christina Christensen.
yeah, that's running
She
for
Yeah,
Senate.
one shocking thing about her, she's running against Kevin Kramer, and she said two things today that people really need to know. She's been able to raise $500,000 to run against Kevin Kramer so far, and she also talked about a poll that said that 33% of the people are very upset with what Kevin Kramer's doing. And so, I'm not here to say party versus party or anything like that, but we can't sit here and just think that the Republicans are going to take every race because I tell you what, these guys are sitting in the back. They're waiting for areas to pounce on people. And we may see some things coming up towards the end of the election that are going to shock us. You got to be vigilant and you got to be ready. And, I said, even in the race for Department of Public Instruction, I assumed that something like this was going to happen today, but this
Mhm.
is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. And I saw some people actually say that Kirsten Baylor lost her job today. She hasn't lost her job. You
No.
know, there's a lot of voters out there. There's a lot of people to talk to yet, and there's a lot of time before the November election. So,
Yeah, I would agree with you. To your point of not being associated with a party, I would have liked to have seen you go there, and this is why, Jason. Because yeah, I agree with you. You probably shouldn't be associated or going for the nomination. But every one of you guys that are running for public office, whether it be DPI or any of these positions, should at least get a chance to talk to these both sides. You know what I mean?
yep.
To both Republican and Democrat. I would have liked to have seen you guys go and do that, especially like for DPI. Obviously, that's supposed to be or nonpartisan, right?
Yeah,
So,
bipolar, nine
yeah,
season, yeah,
there you
bipartisan.
go.
Yeah, I,
That's the only reason why I'd like to have seen you go too is
yeah.
because to get in front of that crowd. But um,
See,
it is what it is.
if I can explain what happened there. For one thing, I didn't. I'm the only candidate that actually went to Democrat district conventions also,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of shook them up when I asked if I could go. And then I did go, and I addressed people from the Democrat Party and from the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
As the convention came, since it was in the same town, I was kind of hoping that I could speak at the Democrat convention and the Republican convention. The
Yep.
Democrats, when I asked them if I could speak at the Democrat convention, they kind of gave an answer. And like I said, I don't want to make anybody mad, but they kind of gave an answer that, well, they really hadn't prepared for somebody like me to come and talk to them as a nonpartisan. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of funny to hear since it's, the DPL is it's nonpartisan, you know. nonpartisan league, so that was kind of a strange deal. I talked to John Trandom. I really like John Trandom, have a lot of respect for John Trandom. He was telling me that if I had gone to the Democrat convention and got their endorsement, that I couldn't come to the Republican Party and speak and try to get their endorsement. And I said, well, I'm not trying to get the endorsement from anybody. I just wanted to speak. And so the thing that I would have had to do to speak at the Republican Party convention was I would have had to have 10 district chairmen sign off that I should be able to be there. And then I would have to seek the endorsement letter that they give out. And if I won it, I would have to accept it. And so I did not want to do that, because one thing that people don't realize is I'm trying to do a funding mechanism that is in the law. And if I'm a nonpartisan for real, I can actually buy merchandise and I can raffle it off. And so that's how I'm doing fundraising. And so
Gotcha.
I've had a lot of people tell me that it was unfortunate that I didn't go to the Republican convention, but those are the same people that would give money. And I'm just going to give you an example. There's a guy that called me on the phone, told me that he was going to give money to Tammy Miller. Okay. But he wasn't going to give money to me. And he told me that I should go to the convention. Well, I have to raise money to run. And so this is how I chose to raise money and run. And so that's why I did not go to the Republican convention and seek their endorsement, because the law states that I can actually raise money through raffling. And that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to do it how you want to do it. And that's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
my hat's off to you. So,
And just so you know, if you want to try to win a nice trailer, I have one that I'm raffling off at $10 a ticket. So
you
just
do have those raffle tickets, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
And look for another raffle. I'm going to talk to. I'm actually in talks with a major company in North Dakota. I have to get their okay to use their name, but then I will be raffling off gift cards to their business also.
Cool.
So, like I said, you got to raise money how you can. And we just talked to a fine person who's been trying to help people in their time of need. And I tell you, there's a lot of people that are not giving to candidacies right now. And I have to make trips all over the state. And if you remember Marvin Nelson last time when he ran for governor, I mean, his vehicle broke down, and they made a joke out of him because he said that he needed money to fix his vehicle up so he could continue the race. That's really not a funny deal,
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. No, I remember that very clearly. So.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting to see here. Like I said, I don't have any other news besides those two races so far out of the convention. So it's just I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to see what happens here. And like I said, I'm looking for a very tough and fierce political season here this summer and into November, because I think I think it's gonna get more nasty than people think.
Well,
Honestly.
and I'm just going to state this, the Harvey radio station has been very good to me over the last 3 years. They let me come on and talk just like you're letting me come on and talk today. And I did mention on the show on Thursday that we either have to support the primary or we have to support the convention. And I would really like to see the Republican Party or the Democrat Party really go with their convention, because the primary in this state allows people to go in, and they may not be a member of that party, but just for the primary to screw things up, they go in and then they vote, in the wrong party. And that's legal as long as they vote, party line. And so I said, I'm still a big fan of the convention. And I feel bad that the Republicans are having a bad convention because their numbers are down 40%. And I'm not trying to say that it's a reformation on the leaders of the party by any means.
Let's take the last year 2022's convention out of the mix, so because that was the biggest one in history. Correct me if I'm wrong. there
Yep.
was almost 3,000 people there, and some of the reason was you'd already seen a shift of the grassroots. We were just getting wound up. I mean, there
Yep.
was more people, including myself, that got involved than ever before, right?
Yep.
There was
Absolutely.
almost 3,000 people there in
Mhm.
2022, and
Yep.
I was one of them.
Yep.
So my question is this: take that convention out of there, and I would like to know what the numbers are like for the last. Let's just even go 5 conventions prior to last or 2022's. Are the numbers really that down? Or are more I guess what I'm trying to say is are there more people getting involved now, or what were the numbers like prior to 2022? Like, what was 2020's?
Well, and I can't answer that question because I'd have to go off camera to to
Right.
do that. I probably wouldn't come back on again. But I will tell you the goal of the head of the GOP this year was
Mhm,
2,285 people.
mhm,
So if you're talking about 3,000 for the biggest convention ever, this is a really heated presidential race. And normally you have your biggest numbers come out when you have the biggest race. And so for them to say that they wanted 2,285 people, that's a good figure because
yeah,
it's quite a bit less than what the high was. But they
right,
were actually 40% under that. I heard the number was around 1,400 delegates. And
yeah.
so that's a shock. That's a shock.
So, what do you think? Oh, let's face it, Jason, there's a lot of things going on. I mean,
Yeah,
there's your race with our public education's a dumpster fire, our
yeah.
medical system is a dumpster fire.
Mhm,
Um, our election system is a dumpster fire. It's like no matter which way you turn, all of this stuff is just in complete chaos, and one can't help but think that it's what do you say, by design. And I'm just wondering that, because every day you get bombarded with this stuff, whether it be Trump and his cases or the
91.
election process or any of that stuff. I mean, it's like, where do you turn? And then, people nowadays, they don't know where to turn. They don't know. Oh, what am I trying to say? They're just, they like throw their hands up in the air and say, "Pfft, I mean, does it really matter if we show up or not? Because I tell you, when I talk to a lot of people at work and just around the area, especially people my age and younger, it's like, why do we even want to get involved? Because it doesn't matter the way we vote anyway. They're just going to cheat and this and that. So I'm just wondering, yeah, we have the grassroots that are really involved, right? I mean, most of them are there right now, but there's also a large and it'd probably even be, not probably, there's more people that are just like they throw their hands up and say, you know, F this because it doesn't really matter anyway.
Mhm,
So I don't know. I feel that it's not just, we gotta keep building the momentum that we have, and sometimes that's harder said than, easier said than done. You
Well,
get what I'm
yeah.
trying to say? You know what I mean? As far as the conventions, yes, what I'm saying is, and now you got the primary. So before, the establishment was all for the conventions until people started catching on to what they're doing, and now they won't even show up for their reorg meetings to get the endorsement of their districts, let alone the convention to get the endorsement for the convention.
Yeah.
So, to your point, what do we do? Do we get rid of the primary, or do we get rid of the convention, or what do we do?
I think that I would really like to see us get rid of the primary. And the one thing that I stated this week on the Harvey radio station was that I think that we should not allow the candidates to go to the primary, and anybody that does should be thrown out of the party. And I know that that seems strong, but I think at this point, the convention is the biggest place where everybody can get together And with the law that they have in North Dakota, we know that Republicans are going to be there. Democrats are going to be at theirs. We're not going to have people crossing party lines and screwing things up for people. And so I think that in North Dakota, I think the convention is the best place to have it until the laws change that affects the primary. They had the presidential caucus this year.
Yeah.
And, I don't remember what the number was right now, but I think it was like 30,000, if I'm not wrong, ballots were made up for that. And what was there, 1,800 people that showed up?
Yeah.
I mean, that was an indication of what was going to happen at the convention. And at that time, I predicted that maybe it could get as low as half of what Sandy Sanford was hoping for. And, so I said it was down 40%, so I wasn't that far off. So, like I said, that's how I based some of my decisions on how I was running. Because, if there would have been 3,000 people there, maybe I could have figured out different ways to raise money,
Right.
But I'm just saying that, I'm proud of the people. We got to deal with what we're proud of. And this last election 2 years ago, I was very proud of the amount of people that came out grassroots. And actually this year, I think that if you go to the Republican Party or primary for sure, there's going to be a huge amount of grassroots people too. So we still have people engaged and involved, and we got to keep that happening. But we got to make sure that we continue to keep our people coming to the convention. So I think a couple of reasons why people didn't come is because they could not get those rules changed that I talked about, that I got in a lot of trouble for talking about. But there's no reason why Rick Becker can't be allowed to run. If say a Democrat changes to the Republican and he can't run for 6 years, well, why would you want to become a member of a party that you can't run for 6 years? If you cause trouble, like Rick Becker did, they said he caused trouble. Now he can't get the endorsement at the convention. I'm proud of him that he's going to the primary. Okay,
Right.
but that's a whole different deal. But we still have people out there. We still have people out there that want to create their own party. And I still say that if the problem is at the party level, then fix the party, but don't make new parties. That's only going to split the vote. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think the reason why they're trying to start a new party is because they lost control of this one. I mean, let's call it like it is. Did Perry Schaefer think that he was going to lose to Sandy Sanford or anybody else? Did he think that he had it in the bag? I would venture to say the answer to that would be yes.
Yeah, I would too. I'm shaking my head up and down.
And and that's where it is, the establishment, they're starting to cry what the grassroots was doing a couple years ago, until the grassroots got their eggs in their basket and started rolling with it. And now you see, I mean, in my opinion, we're in better shape than we were 2 years ago. And hopefully, that the convention numbers are down. However, I feel that it's something that, right now we're by one vote, right? So I'm hoping that years to come that we can get, we can make more of a headway on that as well. And then hopefully some of these rules are going to change. But the other thing is that, and I know it came out that something about it had to be within 15 days or whatever before the convention, but they could have taken a vote too, and they would have needed 2/3 vote to change that rule, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, sometimes, how do I say this? Sometimes you just gotta see, let them know where the bear shits in the woods, so to speak.
Absolutely. And you know what? If they would have changed that rule, I bet you they would have had. I don't want to throw out a number, but I bet you they would have had a couple hundred more people there excited that Rick Becker was there. And, maybe he would have lost, maybe he would have won, whatever.
Right.
But, the thing is, you got to fill those seats. Now you got to
yeah,
get people excited for the primary. Now you got to get people excited for the general. And in order to do that, you have to give people hope. You got to have them something to look for. And they're just taking it away by not changing that rule.
yeah.
One more thing. As long as I'm getting myself into hot water, I'm going to tell you something that I talked about today when I was up at the Capitol. Um, because of term limits, okay, they're still blaming things, okay, and they're blaming term limits. They got to double the size of legislative council because of term limits, because nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows anything anymore. There's going to need so much help that they got to double the size of the legislative council. And yet,
So,
look at our governor candidate. She's never been in the legislature. The running mate that she just picked today, he's never been in the legislature. I mean, they're going to be able to write executive orders. They're going to be able to do everything. What about their training?
so what is an executive committee for the people that don't know?
Executive committee?
Yeah, isn't that what you just said?
No, you said executive order.
No, the committees that you were just talking about.
Oh, the legislative council?
Yeah, sorry, I said
Yeah.
executive committee. I apologize. Legislative
Well,
council. What is the legislative council? Let people know what that is because I don't think the common person knows.
legislative council are attorneys that have been hired to help write the laws that the legislators bring to the floor to pass and have the governor sign.
Mm.
And I just want you to know this. I could write down something on a napkin and take it to legislative council, and their job is to make what I write down on a napkin into something that is a law or a bill that can
Yep.
be passed. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So as a legislator, I don't have to be a lawyer. Okay. I can go in there and say, hey, I'd really like to do this. And then they said, okay, describe what you want to do. And then they craft that into a bill. Okay. And then that can be adjusted at any time in committee or on the floor or whatever before the governor passes it. So, they're trying to make it into something now that because I don't know how to write a bill, that they got to double the size of legislative council. All right. But
Well,
but I don't write a bill. Okay. Now, on one hand, the one bill that I did take to the the 67th legislative session, Bob Hale came and sat beside me and
mm-hmm.
told them what I wanted and read it and made sure that that's what I wanted. Okay, because
Yep.
that's how important that bill was. And he was a great man. And I tell you what, I miss that guy every day.
I never knew him, but the people that I've heard talk about him, and it sounds like he was a
He was a
tremendous
great man.
individual.
He's a
So,
great man.
yeah, we just had Naomi on, Naomi and Kurt Chafee last. What was it? Today's Friday, so it was Tuesday, and she's studying to be an attorney too. And this subject kind of came up about attorneys and different things. In my humble opinion, the less attorneys and the less judges that we have involved in anything, the better off we're going to be, period.
Yeah.
Because they're a lot of the problem of the country. I mean,
I do want you to know that the people that I worked with in legislative council were very good people, but I understand what you're saying.
mhm.
I understand exactly what you're saying.
And just like everything, yes, there's good ones, but for the most part, it's become a joke. Our legal system has become a joke, and some of it is because of attorneys and the way that they write the laws and interpret the laws. And I mean, just look at and I brought this up to Naomi the other night. Look at Luke Simon's deal out there. The judge was, obviously they gave him um a year of unsupervised probation, but he wasn't going to take his gun rights away until the state's attorney said, no, you need to take his state gun right or his gun rights away because he's
For
on
misdemeanor.
probation.
For misdemeanor. They found
Yeah.
they found a loophole. And that's
Yeah.
not right. That's not right.
So, but anyway, I mean, that's probably another conversation for another day, but I feel the less that we can involve in government, probably the better off that we are. Isn't that the way that it was intended to be?
Absolutely.
So, But well, Jason, it's been fun. I mean, do you have anything else for us? I don't
I
really have
know.
anything.
Have I got myself in enough trouble yet, or should I keep talking?
I don't know. I don't know. I guess
I,
we'll
I
find out, right?
I said the only thing I want you to know is the people of North Dakota are great people. And as I go around the state running for office, I just continue to run into great people everywhere. And so this is the best place to live. I've never lived outside North Dakota, just so you know. And
Yeah.
I never would. And I lived in places where it's at 40 below in the morning. And I know that there's places I can go where it's 80 above all the time and the sun's shining, but I would always love being here. So,
hmm Gordy says I'm supposed to tell you to keep talking.
oh my God. Gordy's
Yeah,
a great man. I bought him a bottle of pop today at Steel. So he's a great man.
well, that's
So,
awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome. So,
yeah.
well, I appreciate you taking time out from your busy schedule. I know you're busy between work and now you're run for DPI, so I do appreciate you stepping in for Marvin. I always enjoy our conversations, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you again. And let me thank you for letting me use your intro line.
Well, I love that. I
Uh,
haven't done that now since Lent started. So I'll probably have the little bird told me I should probably start making videos again. So we'll see what
Yeah,
happens.
yeah, that'd be great. And that's just another way to get your message out and go from there. That's use all the resources that you can. That's
Yeah.
for darn sure. So
I just want you to know I kind of took your spot today because I was kind of the quiet one. But I tell you what, it was just so interesting to hear because social services, it's never a good subject, but they do a
mhm,
lot of help for everybody. And I know that there's not a lot of thanks that are given to the people that do
yeah,
social service work, but there are some really good people out there, and they deserve the kudos.
yeah, that's for sure. It's not an easy choice in life, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm really proud of Whitney and what she's been able to do, and I'm sure she's gonna have a bright future ahead of her because she's just that's her deal and that's how she's geared, and so I look forward to seeing what she does.
Yeah. And thank you
So
so much. You guys have been very nice to me. And like I said, I tried not to talk about what I'm doing. But I said, since you asked me, I told you. And I'm glad that you ask everybody to come on. I think that's
I do.
awesome. And if they don't want to come on, that's their problem.
Right. Well, and that's here's the deal, no pun intended.
Absolutely.
Like I said, anybody's welcome. If Jim wants to come on, well, I'm sure we're gonna reach out to him now that he won the nomination and stuff. And we told him before when he was on the last time that he can be on. We've
Anytime.
reached out to Kirsten many times. We have not gotten a reply. And that's something else too. I mean, getting back to people not wanting to get involved. That's a
Yep.
perfect example right there.
Yep.
We've reached out many times and I get it. We probably don't agree on much, but I think Marvin and I can have a civil conversation with someone, even though that we've got a lot of questions to ask her, and they're hard ones, I would imagine, and she would have to be accountable for her record.
Yep.
But there again, we were talking about it earlier about people not wanting to get involved because this seems to be the MO of a lot of these establishment candidates, whether they're not showing up to their endorsement conventions or their reorg conventions. And if they do, there was even a few of them that didn't speak at their own endorsement conventions because they were just going to run in the primary anyway. They didn't even want to answer for the records. So
Well,
not only did they not answer, but they actually voted to endorse their primary opponents. So, I mean,
and and
this is
and
where we're at.
didn't those people later say that they weren't allowed to talk or something like that? Because I thought there was a district out there where the people didn't want to talk, they didn't want to get endorsed, they were going to go to the primary anyway, and then they complained
Mm,
later that they weren't allowed to talk, but they had it all on video.
yeah. Yeah,
You
that
know,
was
they
their
they welcomed them to talk. You
yeah.
know, I said the one thing about the race that I'm in, I think that Jim is very positive. I think that he is trying to stay positive. I
Yep.
said that I would not run a negative campaign, and I'm not going to. The numbers work for themselves. You know.
You're in for a battle. I've told you
Yes.
this before. I think you're in for a battle, and it's going to be interesting to see where the chips fall, and that's all we can do. I mean, you guys
That's all
are,
you can do.
yep. So,
The person with the backbone is going to win. Just so you know.
yep. That's
I'll be
well,
quiet.
we've said it. We've said it many times. It's good versus evil, and
That's
in
what it
pretty
is.
soon people are going to have to decide,
Yeah.
you know, where they're at, and it's probably going to be sooner than later. It
Yeah.
honestly is.
Yeah.
So. All right, stay positive, facts and facts. Yep, that's fine. That's right. Facts and stay positive. So, well,
Absolutely.
with that, people, we will see you on Tuesday. I don't know exactly yet who we're gonna have on. I'm sure I got to get with Marvin here this weekend after his family leaves and stuff, and we'll talk about that. So it might just be Marvin and I talking about the convention, or we might have a guest. I don't really know yet. But I'm going to
Well,
try and get Dr. Nadia on with Dr. Charles from her inspiration here in Williston and talk a little bit more on that deal, the pregnancy center there that they're working on getting going in Williston. And that's actually something near and dear to my heart because I'm on their board. I met them too a couple of years ago at a Sons of Liberty meeting when they came and spoke. And so they've been friends ever since. And they asked me to be involved, and so I graciously accepted, and it's a good cause. So, but with that, you guys have a good evening, and we will see you Tuesday night.
keep up the good work.